There we are. All right, well, welcome to the War Report, brought to you by TagMeADate.com, the first and only dating site exclusively for professional wrestling fans. With our roster of over 75,000 superstars and divas, we are the free dating site where you can find your tag team match.
That's Burn It Down's growing on me.
Yeah, this is growing on me, this song.
It adds a little more substance to it.
It does.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit silly at first. Now it's kind of...
Well, I thought it was silly because I feel like there should be more than just the one Burn It Down. Like,
and then it repeats.
But it makes so much of a difference.
It does, yeah. But I think there should be more words.
Maybe another Burn It Down halfway through.
I want to start a petition or a movement where people will take the songs that these CFO guys write, which the CFOs have taken over for Jim Johnston. Jim Johnston is no longer even with WWE, which is an odd thing to say because he was in like 30 years. They do a good job, but all the shit loops after about 40 seconds.
Yeah,
that's my real issue. Is that they're nice loops. They're very good loops. For 45 seconds, you're really into it. But then, like with Glorious, I just want like a nice guitar solo in the middle, a nice bridge. The songs don't have bridges. They don't have solos. They don't really have breakdowns, except for this one has the dig-a-dit. Like it's got a breakdown in this one, but a lot of them, like Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens has a really great song, except it's two parts, and they just loop it back to back.
Back to back.
I want more, just a little more substance because they're good foundations for a song, and we just need to get to that next level. But
hire Fozzy for that.
There you go. Chris Jericho invented entrance music, of course. He'll tell you that himself. But
he invented everything. Get it right.
Armbar.
He invented air.
So
he invented the internet.
Right.
I want to bring something up to start the show.
Go for it.
All right.
The biggest rumor, in my opinion, that I've been hearing a lot more as of late, is WWE potentially open to being purchased and sold. I've also heard that it could be Disney as an option. I wanted to kind of see, if you guys have heard any of these rumors that I have, and what's everyone's take, because I always assumed, and maybe you shouldn't assume, but I always assumed that the company, once Vince officially was out of the way, that Triple H, Stephanie, and Shane were going to be the ones to take over and continue on the legacy. I mean, you can't tell me the McMahons are that strapped for cash that Vince would want to sell the company. So I'm a little confused. I'm hoping it's not true, especially something like Disney, because if you think it's PG now, it's only going to get worse. And this kind of coincides with the Medulla, who's kind of become one of our kind of like sideline statement guys, and he kind of doesn't really ask questions. He kind of just throws his 2 cents out there to create some kind of conversation. And he's entered 2 to Ask the War Report, and one of which is this topic that he also heard about potentially Disney and how he would officially stop watching Bring On Ring of Honor. So what's your guys' take on this? Have you guys heard this? And could this fucking actually happen?
I wouldn't be too concerned with being overly PG. With another Marvel product they took over, they're still open to rated R setting. So
yeah, like Deadpool, I suppose. But even
Deadpool.
But Deadpool's kind of the exception, though. If you notice, Deadpool is he's the one that gets to do that.
Wolverine might.
Yeah, that they haven't confirmed that Marvel's going to do Wolverine.
But they really didn't harm Marvel at all to me.
No, I mean, I don't. They didn't harm Marvel necessarily, but it's it's a little sanitized because like the Fantastic Four they didn't have the license for, the X-Men they didn't have the license for. So what they ended up doing, what Disney basically did was wrote them out of very important stories.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to do the Infinity War without the Fantastic Four because they do, at least Reed Richards has a big part in it for real. He's in Tony Stark's spot in the comics. So they just, you know, and again, it's a film adaptation of a piece of literature, so they can
rewrote Fantastic Four out of the Marvel comic.
Yeah, they basically wrote him out of the Marvel universe because they didn't want Sony doing anything with him. They didn't even publish comics of
they're still done with them.
They canceled the Fantastic Four comics. So it's just, you know, weird stuff like that. They might make decisions that the fans don't necessarily approve of right away. And again, Marvel is very successful and the films they're doing are very successful. But when I'm picturing they hire Maria Menounos to do commentary because you need a woman on there. And then The Rock comes back, but he only sings songs from Moana. He doesn't actually wrestle.
Here's my question.
That's my fear.
Why would you want to consider selling the company? And from what I'm understanding, Stephanie would actually be behind this as well. I get it, money, but the McMahons, I mean,
it's a legacy.
You know what I'm saying? Right. It's a legacy thing. Why wouldn't Stephanie and Triple H and Shane want to continue it on and then groom their kids to, you know, and just keep it going? It's not like there's not enough of them between Shane and Stephanie. You know, there's 7 grandkids.
There are a lot of grandkids, but
maybe
there's no interest.
Could that be possible, though?
That none of the kids want to do it? I think at least one of those
the kids.
Shane's
I'm more talking about Shane, Stephanie, and Triple H.
Yeah,
but
we're
not even there yet.
Think about it. And they've already been doing it, though. Steph's been doing it for 20, 30, 25 years.
Yeah, but she was so what? You think she's getting tired of it?
Maybe she's over it. I don't know. I mean, they're talking. This is the first time since any of us have started watching that the WWE has even talked about being for sale. They've even in their worst days of like 1993, they never talked about selling the WWF.
That's what I'm saying.
Flash forward 2018. Do you know why? Because it's valued at like the TV deal, the next TV deal, wherever they land, Facebook, Fox Networks, or whether they stay at USA, is going to be in the $400 million range. So if you're Disney or Fox or somebody with who already has a big production behind you, you go, well, if I buy the WWE, let's say I buy it for, just put $1 billion out there, just a round number. I save $400 million because I can just put it on ESPN if I'm Disney, or I can put it on Fox Sports if I'm Fox, or you can put it on ABC if you're Disney. Whatever, you've got channels. You don't need to pay to license the product. You already own the product.
The only way I'm going to be okay with WWE selling to somebody else outside of the McMahon regime would be if somehow we can all get together and raise enough money to buy the shit ourselves and
just a fan-funded WWE. I agree, but I feel like the times they are a-changing, and the only thing I can think, you know, there are very few. I'm not either, but I think there are very few American institutions like that have lasted as long as a WWE. Professional wrestling is one of the older sports in the United States, whether it's kayfabe or shooter work or whatever. I mean, wrestling and grappling is the oldest sport anyway. The WWE has tapped into something that they've been able to sustain since the 80s. I guess they just have to decide if they want to be the Waltons or not, because the Walton family, is it the Waltons for Walmart? It's a family. It's still a family business, despite the billions of dollars that are pumping through it every year. It's a family business. Now there are a lot of other people involved aside from the family, but it's when it comes down to brass tacks.
Documentary on them.
Oh, now I know there's something to watch.
I just feel like it would be the end of WWE.
It would be, because it would still be WWE, but it would probably just be really watered down. They might not.
I think it would go the way the NWA did.
Well, now hold on. You're saying it would be watered down, but let's not get this twisted too. That's if somebody along the likes of Disney was to buy it out. If you get somebody on cable, I mean, this could potentially,
or someone in the wrestling business.
I mean, now I give it more thought. It's not necessarily the worst case scenario, but I think the worst case scenario would be the likes of Disney, or where it would really get even more watered down than it already is. That's my biggest fear.
If Fox got a hold of it, or Fox partnered with the WWE, excuse me, I think that would be great, because Fox Sports, all the Fox Sports channels, as far as I can tell, are on cable. Fox has a network, so you have both the option for the old school Saturday night's main event on your network station. So every couple months you can plug a Saturday night's main event on Fox, but then your Monday night programming is on Fox Sports. Or if you want it to be more adult, FX or FXX. What was that, Ryan?
What if just the local network Fox?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Your local Fox affiliate. They won't put it on. Yeah, they won't put it on regular Fox. Like my Fox is Channel 6. I don't think they'll just put it on weekly on Fox on Channel 6.
That's what I was asking.
I don't think they would do that, just because it's a network. They've got their programming lined up. Well, maybe they don't now.
What does Fox have on Mondays, though?
That's true. People usually have bullshit on Mondays. So, it's an interesting proposition if somebody like Fox picks it up. Disney, I'd be a little more dicey about. Fox, I'd feel kind of okay with, because they're the home of The Simpsons and Family Guy, and at least there's, that they can handle adult entertainment to an extent.
It's just,
I'm not too worried about
surreal.
I don't know.
It would be an end of an era.
I could not picture WWE not run by some kind of McMahon, like even Triple H.
Right.
I would say Triple H should join up with the rest of the clique, and the five of them should.
Like those guys would want to spend the money or have the money.
Already ran it anyway, if you think about it.
They really did. Now, I had an idea, Eric, speaking of that, because we talked about something last week on how there's a lack of unpredictability and how it was more exciting when people jumped back and forth, and that was what you were waiting for. I had a thought this morning while I was taking a shower, as you do. What if, and I'm just spitballing here, we all know, and it's been made very public, Vince McMahon sold 1 million shares of his stock to fund the XFL.
Yeah.
What if on a Tuesday night, SmackDown's on Tuesday now, right? It's not on Thursdays anymore. All right, good. I've got at least got that right. Yeah, it's tonight. It's Tuesdays. So on a Tuesday night, Stephanie McMahon's in the ring cutting her usual promo where she just browbeats a man because she's a powerful woman who doesn't need a man to tell her what to do, so she has to embarrass men every chance she gets. She's in the middle of one of those. She's like, Dolph Ziggler, I told you had tiny balls and a micro penis, and the tuft of pubes sits over the top of them like a terrible bun on a bad cheeseburger. And she's in the middle of that. And then all of a sudden, woo! Dun, 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 Ric Flair comes out and he's strutting. And you don't know why Ric Flair's strutting, but when Ric Flair's strutting and Stephanie McMahon looks mad, you know some shit's about to happen. Yeah. So he calls out Arn Anderson, Dean Malenko, and Tully Blanchard. And all four of them come out and they say, guess what? We bought the 1 million stocks. Part of our provision is that we get to pick a roster of our own and challenge you, Stephanie McMahon, for ownership of SmackDown. And then they win ownership of SmackDown and they rename it WCW Tuesday Nitro. And then they have guys like Dolph. They bring back the big gold belt. Dolph can be a main eventer. Sammy and Kevin would jump ship because they don't like the McMahons. They don't, you know what I mean? Sorry, I was mixing them up. Stephanie's on Raw and Shane's on SmackDown. So just replace it with Shane going, well, I don't know. Am I a babyface? Am I a heel? And then Ric Flair interrupts.
Have the whole blue ball and him and Shane feud.
Right, there you go. You have Daniel Bryan and Shane arguing in the middle of the ring, and then Ric Flair comes in. But anyway, the Four Horsemen bought the stocks. Then you've got a whole build-up to a pay-per-view where control of SmackDown is at hand. You've got people jumping ship. You got guys publicly cutting promos saying, I don't want to be on SmackDown anymore. I don't want to be on Raw anymore. I want to be in WCW. I want to go with the Horsemen, whatever it is. So you get that kind of buzz going. you have to put them over. WCW finally wins 15, 17 years after the invasion, whatever it is. They get their show, but you use the older talent that people remember. So here's what I'm picturing.
Have somebody like Sting, for example, be the general manager.
Exactly.
Or,
yeah, I was saying, have J.J. Dillon video, because I know he's older. So have J.J. Dillon do some stuff via satellite. Have Eric Bischoff come in. Have Tony Schiavone and Jeremy Borash do commentary. Just make it feel like WCW. Change the ropes. Change the way you produce it, because you can kind of experiment with this now. What was that?
Get a new stage.
Right. Yeah. Make it look visually different from the WWE product, and then have the older talent build up. Like what I'm picturing is Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and X-Pac come out and introduce the Balor Club as WCW guys. And then you've got your NWO. And I feel like Sammy and Kevin would be NWO, or not NWO guys, but WCW guys. Yeah. And you could have Jericho, bring him in because they're Canadians. You could have, you just tie in various people and how they would fit in with the WCW universe, the new WCW universe, and correlate them to an older act, and bring then I don't know. I'm spitballing.
I'd say as long as they don't bring back that newer WCW logo that they had at the end,
the exploded vagina. Yeah,
2001 was it?
Yeah, the 2001 logo. So if you listen to the Tony Schiavone podcast, he calls it the exploded vagina.
Tony Schiavone, right though. It's got to be the original.
That block WCW logo, which they had for 20 some odd years.
I liked it.
Then they just decided to change it out of the blue, and the new one wasn't really good because you know what? It took me until well after they were out of business to look at it and go, oh wait, that's not just some weird logo. Those are the letters WCW in this terrible formation. I was the world's big. I never missed a Nitro, and that shit flew over my head because it was so ugly. It was bad.
They had to try something.
It didn't look like anything. At least it didn't look like a real. It was an abstract shape.
We're still talking about it now, though.
Because it was so fucking bad. Oh, but so that was my idea that I had this week.
That's kind of cool.
If you want competition, you have to create it yourself. And WWE versus WWE isn't terribly exciting. Raw versus SmackDown.
Yeah, it's not.
Oh man, who are they going to work for? The McMahon or the McMahon? It's like maybe their retired wrestler general manager will have something to say about this.
Yeah, for me, it only makes sense to have two world titles if they look at it like two separate promotions.
And if they aren't identical titles with different color belts.
Yeah.
It's the same belt with different leather. It's the same thing.
Here's something interesting, and this is actually going to transition to a topic that's up in the air. In 93-ish, when Vince McMahon was in had the trial going on, apparently Jerry Jarrett was the one that was going to take over should Vince go to jail.
This is true.
So that brings us to our Jerry's son.
Ain't he great?
The newest inductee to WWE Hall of Fame. And I'm completely shocked not for lack of talent, but because hell froze over.
Oh, Steve with the perfect timing. You just Muhammad Hassan him with that.
One way or another. I was getting it in there, boys.
Jeff Jarrett. I feel like it's going to be that episode of Family Guy where they take the bus tour in Germany and people ask what happened between 1942 and 1946 and we're on vacation. They're just going to cut to one part where it was like between the years 2002 and 2016 Jeff Jarrett was on vacation. No further questions. They're just going to try and gloss over the last 15 years of his career.
Yep.
There's a lot of people that are shocked that this is happening. I, myself, and Eric are definitely two of them.
I'm flabbergasted.
But I got to tell you, and there's a lot of people that, are excited about it. There's also a lot of people that are of Jared. And one thing I will say,
are on our show.
well, right. Some of them are on this show. And I'm just going to say this. Jeff Jarrett did exactly what he was supposed to do back in the day in the WWF, WWE, his job was to make you absolutely hate everything about him, and he did his job. The whole Double J, Jeff Jarrett, the singing, and then the roadie being the one that's actually singing, and then bringing in the roadie. Everything about it to me was great. I think he only got better, and here's where there's going to be a little bit of back and forth, I think. In TNA, let's face it, TNA was the best that it ever was under the Jarrett regime, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Did Jarrett always put the belt on himself? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Was that an issue? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think he deserved to be a world champion there. When he was in TNA, he was more of a badass Jeff Jarrett as opposed to the country singing, Double J. And I like that Jarrett even more.
That's what happens when you get to book your own gimmick, man. You let Vince McMahon pick it, and you're a country singer coming out in a horse.
Well, right, but I think Jarrett was able to do the transition well. Yes, again, he put the title on himself way too many times, but at the same time, I believe he has a spot that is well-deserved in that Hall of Fame.
They put the title on Raven while they weren't on TV. This is right before they got the Spike TV deal. Yeah. As soon as they found out they were going to Spike TV, at some random house show in Canada that Scott D'Amore was running, who Scott D'Amore is now back with Impact Wrestling, funny enough, they had a title change, and America's Most Wanted came out and interfered, and Jarrett got the title, so they have like some shaky handy cam footage, so Jarrett could come out on the first episode of Impact on Spike with the belt.
That was the whole Planet Jarrett thing.
Yep, that was when Planet Jarrett started. And Planet Jarrett was great, and there were some great segments. There was the funeral for the Dudley Boys, or Team 3D. I'm sorry. There was a lot of really good moments with Planet Jarrett, but I feel like he didn't want to give the belt up a lot. And
he was like Vern Gagne.
Right, because here's the thing. And Jeff Jarrett really, he did end up overperforming in TNA because he did really well for himself. But if you look at when he won the world title in WCW, that was the beginning of the end. When you go, this job guy from the WWF who never did nothing, and now he's the world champ because he's friends with Vince Russo.
By the time he won it, the WCW belt meant jack shit.
Yeah,
it changed hands 26 times in the year 2000.
Yeah, yes.
And
ridiculous.
Also, the other thing that I really question, Vince McMahon, again, they say that he's an odd guy because he'll hold vendettas and then just sort of at one point, 20-some years later, go, okay, we're over that because Jeff Jarrett held him up for money before, what was it, SummerSlam, where he had to put over China because his contract was up.
I believe so.
So he's like, I want $250,000 to go put over China, or I'm just not going to do it because my contract's up. You can't make me.
Plus, he had the belt.
And he had, right. So Vince McMahon, instead of just headbutting him himself and taking the belt from him backstage, paid him, sent him on his way to WCW. He used that money from the settlement there, or putting over China, to fund TNA later, a couple years later. So, I mean, the whole thing really starts with with him holding Vince McMahon over a barrel for that money.
Yeah. You know what? But at the end of the day, no matter how bad it ever got or what the situation was, I mean, listen, Ultimate Warrior held Vince up for money right before a Mania match. So, and that's not to ever condone it or say that it's smart business, but Vince McMahon does what's best for business. And at the end of the day, it's a draw, and it's going to have people tune in because the shock value, like us, who said, I can't believe they're actually inducting him, is going to be enough to get people to tune in. And from that standpoint, I think it's a smart move. Now the other question is, does Jeff Jarrett make a comeback return in WWE now that he's getting inducted?
I don't think he should wrestle. I think he would be great.
What about
I don't want to say with the Revival, because that would be a little too on the nose, but manage a tag team or something.
It would be really weird if he ended up replacing Angle as the GM, considering their history.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Oh no. I took your wife, now I took your job. Ain't I great?
I removed you from the company. I took your wife. Now I'm taking your job. But you know what? At the same, wrestling fans really, like, whether you agree with this induction or not, whether you think he was a world champ, a main eventer or not, you can't deny that he had an eye for talent. And the people that he brought in and made stars in TNA. I mean, look at AJ Styles.
Right, but we're saying, again, we're basing a lot of this off stuff that he didn't do in the WWF. In the WWF, he topped out at being an Intercontinental Champion.
Yeah,
right.
And that was
losing
nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, not that we're lowering the bar for what constitutes a Hall of Famer, because, I mean, again,
there's no criteria.
There is no criteria, and the fucking Birdman is in there, Coco Beware, and and Drew Carey's in there. So what the fuck?
Well, yeah. At least Coco wrestled.
Right, but what I'm saying is, there's not really a rubric for you have to be a technical wrestler or this or that.
Yeah,
so
people got a little up in arms with Godfather's induction or with the Bushwhackers induction.
Well, the Bushwhackers. I know the Bushwhackers weren't the most technical, and again, a lot of this is their outside WWE stuff. When they were the sheep herders and they were in New Zealand and they were working the territories, they were putting on violent fights and violent, bloody matches. Which got them over, and then they moved to WWF, and they made all the money being the cartoon bouncy.
I mean, they were so over, ridiculous.
They were ridiculous, and they weren't the world's best wrestlers, but they were over.
So I enjoyed their whole fame speech.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it, again, with Jeff Jarrett, it depends on how they treat the intro, the video that they do before everything, the recap of his career, and how they have him come out and say a speech, and who inducts him and what they say. Because it seems like a lot of it is based on his non-WWE stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with that.
Yeah.
What if they let him use TNA footage?
I don't think that's going to happen.
You never know, man.
I don't think they should. WWE has rights to the Hardys.
It depends on what Anthem owns and what they don't own.
Yeah, I don't know what to do. I think Anthem has the tape library too, but I'm not sure.
I don't think they have all of it.
They are. Yeah. I'm sure using some Jeff Jarrett footage really wouldn't be any sweat off their back.
What would be real funny, though, is if right before his induction, Road Dogg comes out, but he's just checking the mic.
Yeah, Road Dogg. Road Dogg should be.
That's what the rumor that I heard is that Road Dogg is going to be the guy that inducts him.
It would be even better if they just announced Jeff Jarrett. Like somebody gives a speech, like Jerry Jarrett gives the speech, or somebody gives a speech, and they go, Jeff Jarrett, and they play the Hall of Fame music, and fucking Road Dogg walks out in Jeff Jarrett's costume and just accepts it, straight-faced. Thank you, sir. Yeah. I'd like to thank Vince McMahon, and do the whole speech. And just start doing the speech, and then have Jeff come out behind him and just tap him on the shoulder. Excuse me, come on.
Maybe
I'd like that.
I mean, look, I'm proud to say that I still know all the words to "With My Baby Tonight."
Oh my God, that's like me using. I used to know the words to "Rap is crap."
I know that too.
So, "Rap is crap" was great.
We have something else that we really should talk about.
Yeah.
And that's this gauntlet match on Monday Night Raw. We watched a 2-hour match on Monday Night Raw.
And over an hour and 5 minutes or 6 minutes was Seth Rollins wrestling. Yeah. And he beat John Cena and Roman Reigns in a row.
Hey, that's because Roman's going to go over strong, brother.
I was just thinking that it's like this is only to set up Seth being Michael Cole's going to go, what kind of toll will 1 hour and 6 minutes take on Seth Rollins' body as he enters the Elimination Chamber only on the WWE Network, $9.99 a month, hashtag Elimination Chamber.
I think it's 8 minutes on Raw and Roman Reigns conquered him, brother.
Yeah, I feel like this is just setting up for an excuse, an out for Seth to lose.
Yeah.
And then Roman, because I feel like they're doing, again, we're all this is depending on the health of the Undertaker. It seems like they're setting up John Cena for the Undertaker match because he's talking about his place in the WWE and like he wasn't as focused as he was and this and that, and maybe it's like it's going to take somebody like the Undertaker to snap him back into it. I don't know.
Who wins that though?
John Cena.
Jesus Christ.
Undertaker.
Can I go to a WrestleMania where the Undertaker wins?
No, Undertaker doesn't win matches anymore at WrestleMania. That's not a thing now.
Doesn't that just minute even I don't know.
You know what? Honestly,
it's hard.
I love The Undertaker, but as the moment he lost, I didn't care about his WrestleMania matches anymore.
Well, that was the whole deal with them. Was you know?
I mean, it's still always exciting to see him and what his entrance is going to look like at Mania. But Eric's right. I mean, overall, it just
wasn't as exciting.
Yeah, because the excitement was the streak and knowing that nobody's going to beat The Undertaker until
will it end? Will it end? It was it was so awesome to think about that.
Also, because I think everybody had this idea in their mind that he wasn't going to lose until he was ready to retire, and then he hung on for another 4 or 5 years, and that's great. You know, it's like one of those things where, I think he even said this in an interview. He's like, I didn't want to be that guy where parents would have their kids at a show and go, "You should have seen him 15 years ago. You should have seen him 20 years ago." But unfortunately, we're at that point now where parents have their kids at the shows and they're like, "Man, when I was your age, he was great. He was with Paul Bearer and he did this and that and he lit JR on fire and he." You know, whatever the fuck, you have all these great memories of The Undertaker, and then it's like the last couple of years, he doesn't really show. He shows up, but he doesn't show up. They'll do lightning strikes and gongs and a cryptic video, and then all of a sudden you've got a WrestleMania match. It's like they lost something when he stopped. And I know he's older. He's got bad hips. He had bad hips. It's not comfortable to sit in a plane to travel when you're that tall. But if you're going to build a WrestleMania match, to me, you got to be there.
And he had from Mania 23 when he fought through 29. Like so when he fought, you know, what was it? Batista, then Edge, then Undertaker fought then Shawn Michaels twice, then Triple H twice, and then CM Punk. All those matches were fantastic.
Classics.
And then as soon as he lost the streak, and obviously, yes, he got concussed early on, and that fucked it up.
Yeah.
But it just the whole, you know what? In my head, he never lost, and I'm happy in my head. So that's
I feel like with the way that match was going, they should have called an audible and had him win. And I know there was a bigger story being told with Brock Lesnar going on to beat the shit out of John Cena quite handily with however many German suplexes and all that shit. That was like a year later, wasn't it? That wasn't even then. But
that was SummerSlam.
It was. Yeah, so they were telling, you know, they're trying to tell a story of Brock being an unstoppable monster, and of course that story was supposed to end a couple WrestleManias ago when he got fed to Roman Reigns, but that did not happen. So now he's going to get fed to Roman Reigns 2 years later.
Well, see, now here's my thing, guys, and I get it. Vince McMahon has a hard-on for Roman Reigns and him being the guy and everything else, but Jesus Christ, how do you not do Braun versus Brock at Mania?
Yes,
and have Braun go over and become champion?
Because they say people say that Braun doesn't have enough time. He's not as good as Roman Reigns. He's not as good of a wrestler. The matches that he's had with Brock haven't been like world beating matches.
Braun Strowman is the total package. He's got the size, he's got the agility, he's got the mic, he's got the personality.
He's funny, yeah. He can be funny when he needs to, serious when he needs to.
Have you seen a man his size run that fast? Holy shit!
He's a super athlete on the level of a Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
And if they let those guys go, I mean, listen, let's not start punching each other in the head like that happened in the last match. But if you let those guys go and just have a stiff fucking big man match and do a top rope German suplex or top rope F5 and fucking break the ring and bust out all the gimmicks, because that's for those kind of guys, that's what you want to see. Like, I don't know. I know what a Roman Reigns match is and I'm over it. So, and I know what a Brock Lesnar match is, and we're getting to the point where people are getting over that too. So why are we going to put two people in there where it's like we've seen Brock do the same match for 5 years, and then you see Roman Reigns who
done the same match forever.
Yeah, I know he's done the same match since he was in FCW.
Except he's done the whole hoorah with
now he jerks his wrist off before he does things. So I mean that made all the difference. But I don't know. I don't want to shit on Roman Reigns. I know this is usually the internet is the shit on Roman Reigns show, and he's not a bad performer. I just think they're positioning him in a spot that not only is he not ready for, and I don't know if he'll ever be ready for it, because now it's been another 2 or 3 years since he was supposed to be ready, and I still don't think he's any more ready. I just think there are other guys who are better suited for the role, like Braun Strowman.
That was the best call to send Rollins out at 31.
Yeah.
I
think so.
I was there, and the stadium was
ready. They didn't want the night to end in booze.
It was too predictable. So now you put Shinsuke at the back end of the show, and if he wins, then you go home happy. It doesn't matter that 6 matches into the show, Roman Reigns snuck in a world title win, because by then you're gonna have all these other things happening. But how shitty is that you have to sneak a world title win in because the guy that you want to go over isn't over? Just change direction. It's really simple. You just pick another guy and you say he's the guy now. Elias, you could take the Roman Reigns push and put it on Elias. And I'm not saying that you should, because again, he doesn't have enough time in the soup either. He needs more time to marinate. But Braun Strowman, Braun Strowman, I think Braun is the most intriguing matchup, because if you go with Strowman and you send the message that this guy is the future, you have people knocking at the door of a giant. Again, it's every matchup is fresh. If Roman Reigns wins the world title, he's going to wrestle people he's wrestled 1,000 fucking times. If Braun Strowman wins, that opens up people he's never even interacted with. It would just be more fresh. I don't know. And I know that's not the direction they're going to go. They're going to go the direction that they wanted to do 3 years ago, or for whatever it was, and couldn't do it.
Yep.
Do we have any other questions? Because we just kind of freestyled this whole show.
Yeah, well, we got quite a few questions actually.
We should mention that the ladies are both sick, ill. Hope they feel better. Both Amanda and Kat had separate illnesses, a bicontinental illness, but an intercontinental illness because they're on the same continent, Canada and the United States. But we hope they feel better. Intercontinental. So we got some questions. WrestleRumble.com questions.
Well, we're going to start off with 2 statements, one of which we really talked about already. They're both from the Medulla. Again, the first one: if WWE gets sold to Disney or 21st Century, etc., I'm done. Bring on ROH. The second one: let Medulla be very, very clear. Last week, one of the dudes on the War Report said we shared the same thoughts. It was like I was in the shower with this dude as he was thinking what I was emailing last week.
I think that was me.
Do not ever, and the Medulla means ever, put him and your thoughts in a shower together again. Yuck. Totally joking. Wrestling's awesome reporter. Long live Sarah, that dingleberry princess.
Oh, man. Oh.
And that is from the Medulla, who, not for nothing, is very high up in the runnings for a free entry into this month's Wrestle Rumble.
Good use of the word dingleberry as well. Yeah.
Yes.
So I guess we should...
Sold me, quite honestly.
At this point, I guess I should unveil the photo that I photoshopped the other week. Like last week after the show, I put this together and sent it through, and I didn't have a use for it. So now we're just going to use it. This is the offended. This is what people from Nebraska who get offended look like.
It's amazing.
So, since we are on that topic, one other thing that I will mention to those of you who did not see it as it was posted, we did get a response from Sarah from Nebraska, which I am prepared to read to you right now. And I would like to also let the listeners know that as soon as this email was sent, we were completely blocked where we were not able to respond.
And we offered to have her on the show. That we were going to send an email to tell her we were going to have her on the show this week or whenever she was available.
And have a special interviewer for even. Come on.
So this was the comment that was emailed to askthewarreport@gmail.com. Let me be clear on this. I am not a mom against WWE, and I'm not even a mom. I am a concerned citizen. The WWE is for adults, not for children. They need God, not wrestlers.
No.
So no, I will not come on the show because you made it clear what kind of parents you are.
We are godless
heathens. The show is normally great until I found out you had kids that watched.
What?
So you lost a listener, Sarah from Nebraska.
Oh.
Now, I would like to say this very quickly. In my world, sweetheart, Ric Flair is God. Okay? And number 2...
Fire me! I'm already fired.
I have lost many sleepless nights now knowing that you are no longer listening to our show. Good riddance to bad rubbish.
I personally contemplated my life that night. I don't know if I could go on.
And not only that, right before she sent that little email, she said to us, "You just proved my point." And we're just taken aback, and we're like, okay. Lady, if anything, you proved our point. So shut the fuck up.
Listen, I don't want to get into a whole nother thing about this. We wasted too much time on this bitch last week. Vince, what the fuck are you doing?
I just want to let sweet Sarah know one thing.
Oh, buddy.
I've been traveling up and down the dark and dusty roads of professional wrestling for quite a while. I can tell you I provided for my family. They are world champions, baby. They're always champions in my eyes. You take care of your kids first. I was the son of a plumber. He took care of me digging ditches, daddy. And I took care of my children, taking bumps in the ring and entertaining all over the world. And Sarah, I don't know how you can justify watching wrestling and going to church and then saying you don't have children. You're all over the place. Your rationale is just ridiculous. I don't quite understand you. So I'm just going to leave you with this. You don't trust the Flair, you don't trust an Anderson, and you don't trust no motherfuckers from Nebraska. Sweet Sarah, you can go suck a dick.
So that will be the last we ever speak of Sarah from Nebraska.
By the presence of the Midnight Rider right here.
And
I forgot to tell you guys I invited the Midnight Rider.
Only on the War Report.
Only on the...
So moving on, we have, here's another one. We got Arnold from PA. And we kind of started to touch on this as well. Why is everyone excited about Jeff Jarrett getting in? The best thing I could say, Arnold from PA, is try and find some footage of Jeff Jarrett, especially when he was in TNA. That, in my opinion, at least, would be a good reason and give you an understanding about Jeff Jarrett. Because if you're asking that question, my guess is that you don't know too much about Jeff Jarrett. And I could be wrong. Maybe you do, and maybe you just don't. And listen, there's a lot of people that are saying that you know, why is he getting in?
Yeah.
So,
but you could be younger and just not be aware of Jeff Jarrett's career. You could not get or watch TNA, which happens a lot as well. There was a point where for entertainment value, he was doing something called Double MA Jeff Jarrett. And he was challenging Kurt Angle. And he claimed to be a jiu-jitsu master. So he would go to children's jiu-jitsu classes and put ankle locks on children in like a shitty dojo.
He had his 2 bodyguards, Jose and Jose B.
Right, and he had the shin pads. He would wrestle with the shin pads and the mouth guard and the MMA gloves, and he was really trying to make it like – and he played it for comedy. Here's the thing. He didn't play it for laughs like – punchline. He played it for laughs, like his character was so serious about it that you laughed at the guy for taking it this far. Like it was just an absurd, ridiculous angle, and it was really fun. So again, the guy's entertaining. I can't say he's not entertaining. There's just when you saw his booking, there was just sometimes where it's like, drop the title, Jeff. You know, you just got to put somebody else over. But he did put on some good matches. Raven. In TNA, he wrestled a lot of Raven matches. He wrestled Rhino a bunch.
That was a good match.
Yeah, that was it. And was that where they decided to do like a quick title change to Rhino?
Yeah,
that
and
night?
Then they did some early AJ Styles stuff with Jeff Jarrett too.
Yep, AJ. I mean, you got to give him credit for having those guys. I mean, R-Truth was the first. After Ken Shamrock, he was the next NWA champion for TNA, I believe. Yeah, and R-Truth had a nice little run.
2005 for Rhino Jarrett, and it was the NWA title.
Yep, and and that was another thing. I liked that the NWA title had some love, and I know it's gone away, but it's coming back. I don't know if you guys saw this, but James Ellsworth challenged Nick Aldis for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship.
Speaking of the
and it got 300,000 views on YouTube. 300,000 views.
Wow. Did you see his title belt?
He just had Leather by Dan, who is a great if you go to leatherbydan.com, he makes some great championship belts. He is the intergender wrestling champion, much in the vein of Andy Kaufman being the intergender wrestling champion. But there's actually a title belt now, and I'm gonna try and pull up a picture. It's great that he's doing something with it, because some guys just kind of flounder on the indies after WWE, and they're in there to collect the paycheck of, hey, you remember me from TV? Here's my give me my $15 kind of deal. So it's good to see that he's actually kind of innovating, even though he's going backwards. He's using a concept that hasn't been used in a very long time, which is kind of cool. So let's see if there's a.
Well, while you're looking, I'm gonna go into the. We got another one. We got Tanya from Washington.
Tanya
says or asked, did Seth Rollins solidify himself to go down as one of the GOAT with being in Gauntlet for an hour and 5 minutes, which we kind of touched on this also, but
I can't say Seth Rollins is the greatest of all time. Oh, this is Ellsworth's intergender championship, by the way. So I love the strap, the pink and the blue, and wonderful.
Leather by Dan is making the MVP belt for Wrestle Rumble.
Yeah, they do. So Leather by Dan does really good work. Follow them on Instagram and all that shit. But Seth Rollins, I just can't pull the trigger on calling somebody the greatest of all time or potentially greatest of all time this early in their career.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
And I know he wrestled a lot on the indies, but again, that's
could be in the running for it.
Maybe. Oh yes, eventually.
Yeah, no, listen, he's definitely climbing the ladder. He's climbing in the right direction, but Vince is right. He's still very young in his career. And that's not to take away, again, from all his time in the indies. When I say young in the business, I mean, he's been doing this for a very, very long time. But when you get to WWE, it kind of starts over.
Right, that's when it starts to count again, yeah.
Right.
I think, here's the thing. If Seth Rollins won the WWE Championship at WrestleMania in a one-on-one, really competitive match where somebody made him look good and put him over and cue the confetti, he's already in the discussion because he proved he could go in the main event of WrestleMania and deliver a classic performance. I haven't really seen that career-defining classic performance.
Which is not to take his away at all from his performance Monday night, because his performance
exactly, and maybe that was it. Maybe that was it because he beat Roman Reigns and John Cena in the same night. Maybe that makes him. But it's really it's not just the match; it's the next couple.
Think about that for a second, okay? Not only did Seth Rollins beat Roman Reigns and John Cena back to back, he beat a fresh John Cena after going for an hour with Roman Reigns.
Yeah, they went for a long time.
So I mean, that's something to be, he deserved that standing ovation.
Yeah, and I just think, I don't know, if you look back at how he won the title at WrestleMania, he really wasn't in the match for very long. And then that match, I really didn't enjoy the Triple H match that he had last year at WrestleMania. I thought it was a little too long.
Good point.
Oh yes, that was fantastic. Again, I think he could do it. I think he can be in contention for one of the best wrestlers of all time. Sure, I think he needs a WrestleMania main event. That's a real WrestleMania main event where he goes over, or at least if he doesn't win, at least it's got to be one of those Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Chris Benoit type matches where everybody comes out looking really good. If it's something like that, and again, maybe Monday night was it, but in my mind, he needs that performance to say, right. He needs to be made. Yeah. And that's why it's sad that they've been on this Roman train for so long, because at this point you've had a bunch of WrestleManias. You could have made a bunch of new stars, and instead you just decided to go with same old, same old.
Yeah, no, it's true.
What, 3 Manias in a row with Reigns in main event?
Ooh, you think it would have been over after he won the largest WrestleMania of all time in front of 100 and something thousand indifferent fans as he beat a semi-retired guy for a title that he
beat him like a heel.
He did. He did.
The more I think, I was sitting on.
So did Hogan. Think about Hogan. He would throw ashes in the face of the Undertaker. He'd do all kinds of shit.
Hogan was dirty as hell.
Hogan didn't give a fuck.
He was dirtier as a babyface.
Hogan was going over, brother.
All right, so we got one more question. This is Brandon from Texas. Who will go down as the greatest heel of all time? That's a tough question.
I mean,
there's so many.
Fucking Flair was up there.
I mean, Flair, I think, would be my number one. If I had to choose, I would have to go with Flair as my number one heel.
The Dudleys got a lot of heat. The Midnight Express and Jim Cornette specifically got a lot of heat.
Yeah. Jericho was a great heel.
Jericho could get a lot. Oh my God.
Jericho's a phenomenal heel.
All right. So he's up there. Oh, Ted DiBiase's a good one.
Classy Freddie Blassie would be one.
When he finally turned heel, was a good heel.
Roddy Piper was a good heel. Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect. I mean, that Mr. Perfect gimmick, you had to be perfect to pull that shit off, and he did it. So, man,
I'll tell you this: I would put the Miz in that conversation.
Yeah,
Miz is, he's got this different kind of, and it's different now.
100% agree with the Miz. 100% agree with that.
We're in a different time of television and wrestling and all that. This guy, I really give him a lot of credit for starting as like a real world guy and working his way up, because he gets it.
Putting up with
control. And but we're in this different world where like he cuts a good heel promo, so you're like, oh, that's good, and people like that, and they're attracted to, they like him because of it. But then you hear the boos from the people who are still being worked, so it's like he's got that kind of in between thing where people like him because he's kind of funny and witty, but you're supposed to dislike him, so there are boos. That was never more apparent than at WrestleMania. This year, where they were cheering him and Maurice and booing John Cena and Nikki Bella. I've never heard so many people shout "say no" to a proposal in my life, which is just a sick indictment of all of us. We are, but if you had your children there at WrestleMania, you should have been at church on Sunday like Sarah was, instead of being at WrestleMania, right? I really don't understand that children shouldn't be. I watch WWE, but it's not for children. Really? What part of it's not for children? Saturday Morning Slam, that was specifically a show that didn't have blows to the head or neck.
Hulk Hogan was rocking wrestling?
Yeah, Hulk Hogan had a damn cartoon. Hulk Hogan was a living cartoon. John Cena's a living cartoon.
Reigns is
Nobody has that. Bailey gives hugs. All right, sorry. Got into a whole other thing. But yes, best heels of all time: Flair, Jericho, Sarah from Nebraska, The Miz.
What about Mr. McMahon himself?
Oh yeah, we can't forget Mr. McMahon, because God,
Paul Heyman. I mean, unless
if we're talking about managers, it's a whole different thing, because then you get Heenan in there. But like for guys that regularly wrestled, and Vince McMahon regularly wrestled for a couple of years. Oh, like when he fought CM Punk on Raw and the whole building was shaking.
Yeah.
You can't get that kind of reaction without having it.
Right.
Whatever it is. And McMahon, I mean, he started out, oh, what a maneuver. Like it's this over-the-top commentary guy. So you thought that he was just kind of this goof. And he was just hiding.
And he flipped the switch.
The genetic jackhammer revealed itself. And he got so much fucking heat. He didn't do anything. What was the grapefruits? The tater tots?
No, it was grapefruit. His grapefruit.
He also has intellectual sperm.
There you go.
Yes, of course. So yeah, McMahon got he got so much heat.
I love his feud with God.
Yeah. he played the music and moved the spotlight ever so slowly down the ramp.
Him and Shane in the church.
He did the whole Triple H entrance with the holy water.
Yeah, he was drinking.
And Shane
might win. Who else does that with holy water?
But the like one of my favorite things was when he was in the hospital and Mankind was visiting him. Poor Austin like beat the crap out of him.
Yerple the Clown
introduces Yerple the Clown, Sacco, and the thing that made that segment for me was when McMahon. This is right before Austin comes in and Mankind leaves. He's like, Mr.
Sacco. Yep.
Said that. And then I'll take it from here, nurse. And then
Mr. Sacco. Yeah, he's a great character, man. Vince McMahon, the Mr. McMahon character is up there as one of the best heels of all time, one of the best wrestling characters of all time.
Or his last interaction with Owens.
Oh, where you took the headbutt. I mean, listen, Vince McMahon is a very consistent.
Like a sailor.
He's been so consistent with his own character over the years, more consistent than he has been with some of his wrestlers. Hello, Dolph Ziggler. Hello, Big Show. Yep. But he just, you can, even in the last time he was on the show with Austin, he was, oh, I'm old, I'm this, I'm that. He's trying to talk himself out of an ass beating when he's by going by, well, Shane's healthy. You know, he was selling out Shane the whole time. Like, he was always looking out for himself, even with his family involved. Mr. McMahon was always looking out for him, number one.
But that's what just made him so great.
Yeah. Oh, it was fantastic. So thank you. Was it somebody from Texas? Kyle? Kevin? What's his name? No, Brandon. There we go. I got it. Brandon from Texas. I knew it was a guy's name.
And that is the
wow.
For this week. So we got some great questions again as usual, and all of them are in the running for that Wrestle Rumble pick for Elimination Chamber.
Yes, we'll let you know
everything we needed to discuss too.
Yeah, we didn't do any Elimination Chamber picks, but whatever. I mean,
we'll talk about the Chamber next week.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk it over. And one last thing, I guess, before we go. So there was a lot of rumor and innuendo that they were going to rebrand the pay-per-views for both brands and scale them down from 16 to 12. And Meltzer kind of said they weren't going to do it, and a couple people said they weren't going to do it, and some people said they were. Long story short, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
Which, thank God, because sometimes 2 or 3 weeks between a pay-per-view, come on, man, give us time to breathe.
Yeah, I agree.
Although, I also heard a rumor that, and mind you, this is just a rumor, all right? But you know how we heard the rumor that it might make all the pay-per-views dual? Yeah. One of the things I heard also was that they might make every single non-Big Four pay-per-view up to like 4 hours, and I think that's way too much.
Yeah, I heard that. Why do we need a 4-hour pay-per-view?
Especially Mania.
Yeah, Mania is.
I understand wanting to get everybody on the card, but you know what?
Well, no, but you know what that is too? That's also, that 4 hours is also including a pre-show.
Yeah.
And probably a post-show. So
one would hope.
No, I guess
my God.
The actual pay-per-view will probably be 3 hours.
All right, well, then that's fine. That I could deal with.
Yeah.
You know, and if you don't want to see the pre-show, then you don't have to
anyway.
Pre-show.
Yeah, but could you imagine a pre-show and then a 4-hour pay-per-view? That'd
Only
be
for
a bear.
The Big Four.
Right.
How long was Last Mania?
Well, Last Mania was like 5 hours.
Christ.
Yeah.
It was an all-day experience. you went in when the sun was up and left as long after the sun had set.
Mania is the one. It's never long enough for me.
Yeah. It's a good show.
Mania is that
exciting, but watching on TV is kind of.
Yeah, it's a lot of time invested if you're watching it on TV.
Much like the Royal Rumble this year, I'm glad they spread them out and didn't. If you did 2 Rumbles one after the other, people wouldn't.
Yeah.
No, they would have never even considered doing that.
That would have killed whatever the Rumble that came on second was. It killed it dead. Yeah. But the one concern I've heard is that, if they're dual branded pay-per-views, there's less pay-per-view time for like half the roster of each team is not going to get used. I'm gonna introduce a concept that might be foreign to some people. I know vocabularies aren't maybe not necessarily what they were back in the day. Alternating. So here's what we used to do back in the day. I don't know if you know this. There weren't always 12 pay-per-views. There weren't always 16 pay-per-views. They were spread out. So if there was and we had this before with the dual branded pay-per-views. All you do is, if let's say there are 6 feuds on Raw and 6 feuds on SmackDown. For the next pay-per-view, you pick 3 from one show and 3 from the other, and you build to those. And then in between, you build to the other pay-per-view with the other 3 from each brand. Yep. You don't have to put every feud doesn't have to build to the one pay-per-view. And I know we're very conditioned to that right now, but this gives it room to breathe. Imagine if Kevin Owens didn't have to wrestle Shane McMahon in 6 different kinds of fucking matches over the last year or whatever it was. Stretch that shit out. Give a feud 2 months.
Gives more volume to the storylines. It gives more time to build and have that climatic finish.
And plus, I'm tired of this fucking participation trophy shit. Like
there were
who you couldn't get on. What do you do? Like
earn your way on, exactly. Earn your way on.
Back in the day, there were some big snubs, but cry about it.
You had to earn your spot, and I think this might be a way to get people more competitive. Well, if there are only half the matches on the pay-per-view, I have to prove that I have to be in that half that doesn't get cut.
And that way we don't need a ridiculous amount of, multi-man matches.
Right, and there are some matches that just nobody gives. Do you know how many times you watch a pay-per-view? Who gives a shit about this match? Like, why? They had to put it on to fill time. You don't have to do that now. If you've got feuds that are ready, you put them in the pay-per-view. If the feud isn't ready, you give it more time because you've got another one coming up. It would just be so refreshing to get 8 weeks of build, 8 weeks of TV without a pay-per-view.
Also, you don't have
to tell a story. Go ahead.
50 matches between 2 people.
Yes, it would. You could involve more people in the feuds, and it spaces out the gimmicks because. It is just exhausting. At first, it's a 6-man match, then it's a tag team match, and then it's a singles match. But somebody wins by DQ, so the next one's no disqualification or whatever.
And then next one's like a ladder match, and the next one's a Hell in a Cell.
And then you realize it's only been like 6 weeks, and you've used every single match type.
Kind of like Sasha Banks and Charlotte for that stretch.
Oh God, that was some kid playing WWE 2K. Going, I want this match now. All right, I want to wrestle these 2 in this match. And the dad's like, you sure you don't want to play with some other characters? No, I want these 2. And we're gonna do this match.
2 in the first insert here.
Oh, was that it for the questions?
That's it.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, we're good for that. So again, WrestleRumble.com is your pay-per-view pick'em website. The one that we fully endorse here, tagmedate.com. So go visit. It does, unlike tagmedate.com, which is free to sign up, WrestleRumble.com costs as little as $5 to submit an entry, and you can win all kinds of prizes. There is a belt by Leather by Dan. There's usually some kind of cash or some kind of cool merch that you get. And it's not just the top finishers, like the top 10 finishers get prizes. It's a pretty good deal.
$500 for first prize this week.
So if you think you know who's going to win the Elimination Chamber matches and in what order and all other kinds of interesting prop bets that you can make, go to WrestleRumble.com. And if you don't feel like paying $5, you can do like the Medulla and like Brandon and like everybody else, like Sarah, who's still in our prize pool, but I don't think she'll ever get that email. She's not going to receive the message that she won. You can go to askthewarreport@gmail.com or use a hashtag #AskTheWarReport and tag @TagMeADate on social media. We will ask your question live on the show, and you'll be entered into the pay-per-view pick'em pool. One of the questions of the month will be the asker of that question will be given a free WrestleRumble.com pick'em. So we'll inform you by email who that may be, or by social media who that may be. I was joking. We should have, before she blocked us, I was going to give it to Sarah and see how she stacked up against us in the picks. But now that's not the case. The Medulla's up for it. He had some good questions. Brandon had a good question. Everybody had good questions. So we'll go think about it. We'll decide who the winner is. We'll send out that pay-per-view pick'em. I hope you do well. If anybody wins these things from our free, if you actually win a prize from your free entry, please let us know. That'd be very interesting. But SmackDown has started. It's 8:04, so I'm sure Shane McMahon is in the ring, cutting a promo
with Daniel Bryan, and they're arguing about something.
Really? Surprise, surprise. So So go watch Smackdown for something that you haven't seen before. Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon arguing. But be sure to tune in next Tuesday, 7 p.m. on Eastern Time for another edition of the War Report, brought to you by TagMeADate.com. TagMeADate.com is absolutely free to sign up with our roster of over 75,000 superstars and divas from all over the world. You can find your tag team match on TagMeADate.com.
And the apps are coming.
Yes, iPhone, Android apps. We are testing the apps and making corrections and making sure that they're appropriately formatted for you and for your enjoyment. So check out our social media at TagMeADate. You will see no spaces, all one word, at TagMeADate. And we'll keep you updated on when those iPhone and Android apps will come out. I can't wait to install it on my iPhone and use it. Using a browser is great, and it's out. Like I said, it's free to sign up, but you know how it is. There's something about using an iPhone app or an Android app. It just feels good in the palm of your hand, you know? So we're going to have an iPhone and Android app. We'll let you know when those come out. And tune in every Tuesday on YouTube. You go to youtube.com, and in the search bar, you type Tag Me a Date. And again, it's all one word, no spaces. Tag Me a Date. Squish it all together. You will see our Tag Me a Date YouTube channel. It has our archive of live shows. It will show you if we're broadcasting live at the time. Again, Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. on Eastern Time. Eventually, the clocks are going to change again. We'll let you know about that, but I don't have to worry about it right now. Right. Hit the subscribe button to subscribe to the channel. And the best way to do it is also to hit the bell, because the bell sends you an alert when we go live or upload a video. So if you don't remember what time it is, or you don't want to set, an alarm or a reminder, this will do it for you. Just hit the bell. And we will see you next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on YouTube. Once again, type in Tag Me a Date to find us. Thank you for tuning in this week. Submit your questions, askwarreport@gmail.com, and we will see you guys next time.